Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Gyle here, and welcome back to another Supreme Commander epic. And how saucy was that intro sequence, ladies and gentlemen? That's right, a huge shout out and thank you to Mr. Shy Halud for throwing that one together. It took him a good couple of days of fiddling around in the 3D suites to render and model that one and put it all together, and it's much appreciated. Anything to help beautify the channel and make this look more professional than the very amateur setup it is much appreciated. I feel like I should have done that properly as well. A huge thank you and shout out to Mr. Shy Halud. Those of you who are Frank Herbert or David Lynch fans should understand that one, but nonetheless, it is much appreciated. Anyway, on to today's game. Like I say, it's going to be a Supreme Commander epic. It's also going to be a ladder match as well. So a little bit unusual. We had one the other day, of course, with TA for Life. This one's going to be featuring Voodoo and Tresfor, otherwise known as Congreve, and it's going to take place on Forbidden Pass. So let's go on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. Forbidden Pass, of course, well known for producing slightly longer than normal 1v1s because of this whole Z-shaped thing at the moment. It's very impeding for getting your force around here. It's a slightly larger map as well. First glance, you might think it might look like a 5x5, but of course it's not. It is a 10x10, so it does make for slightly longer games. Of course, this being an epic, ladies and gentlemen, it will reach at least the 1 hour point in game time terms, so leave enough time to watch this. If you don't have time, why not check it out later on your watch later playlist in YouTube. Alrighty, let's take a look at our players. Up here at the top right in the blue corner we have Voodoo, once again still fiddling around with the whole Aeon thing. It sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it, fiddling with the Aeons, but he is nonetheless trying out Aeon. He's abandoned his customary UEF, much to my dismay, but it's nice to show that he is versatile. Anyway, he's opening first land, second air, and his opponent down here at the bottom left, making my life difficult as always, is Tresfor, or as we shall be referring to him, or under his more commonly known name as Congreve. This guy changes his name more than I think anybody else in FAF. I was looking up in the username utilities earlier. I was like, who the hell is Tresfor? Oh, it's Congreve. And I thought you get to see all of the other names he's picked. He's had about 50 in the last 2 years or whatever. So thank you to him for making my life extra specially difficult. But anyway, both these guys expanding. Congreve expanding a little bit more aggressively. You can see the amount of engineers he's got out. 1, 2, 3, 4 engineers, and a little bit further out so far than Voodoo. Voodoo has 4 or 5 engineers set up. He's keeping actually about 3 in his main base. Power is his main concern. I'm wondering if we're going to get some early bomber play. Indeed we are. You can see he's working on one there. 75% complete already. Will he be able to turn it into anything? We have got an air factory online for Congreve, and we also have a Prowler, that's a T1 interceptor there for Cybrin, ready to go. So he should be able to defend nicely, assuming he gets a nice early read on it and he's alert with his micro. It's very important, of course, to defend those early engineers. Bomber circling over the eastern edge now for Voodoo. And he will notice a little blip on the map. Maybe it's a mole, but he's going to sail straight over that, wisely so. No great advantage in taking that out. We have also got a bomber on the pitch now for Congreve, and a second bomber out for Voodoo as well. Up here, they're going to pass each other in the sky. Will Congreve notice that he's done that and pull that interceptor back? I think not. He's currently running screen for his own offensive bomber up here, but a nice run over the top for Voodoo. Doesn't actually pick up any kills as far as I'm aware. Looks like he was going for the power grid there. Managed to damage 2 completed T1 P-gens and 1 uncompleted one. Conversely, up here, a little bit more success there for Congreve. That bomber of his making its way over the top, picking off an engineer, but he's got interceptors swooping in there. And he's not going to manage to get a second pass, so nice defensive work from Voodoo. Another bomber out for Voodoo there. Not going to get much done with that either. Both these guys really on it in defensive terms, not letting either one of their opponents gain any traction with the early airplay. And airplay can be so important, of course, on this map, just purely by the fact that it's such a long way to get your ground units over. I mean, it's not strictly true for Aeon, of course. Voodoo, you can start spamming together hordes of Auroras and send them straight across here, but life a little bit more difficult, of course, for our resident Cybrin, Congreve. He is definitely going to have to shuffle all of his T1 around the corners of the map. That is, of course, until he gets T2, he can start throwing some Wagners together. Expanding NG down here out for Voodoo. Looking a little bit vulnerable as there's a bomber overhead for Congreve. Congreve can't quite get the line on it at the moment. It's taking several passes to manage it, but he's got all the time in the world, especially with those ghosting inties there keeping him safe. How good's your micro, Voodoo? Well, he's doing a little bit of a forbidden pass fandango there. Nicely done. Manages to avoid it. Brings in his own interceptors as well, and an enormous engagement for this time in the game. 6.5 minutes, and Voodoo's amassed what looks like be about 6 or 7, maybe 8 inties, and rolls through Congreve's air forces like a hot knife through butter. No troubles there at all. Both of these guys consistent with the meta in their play so far and bringing their ACUs to this little nook in here. That's a very standard play on this map. Get your ACU in here, get these 4 mexes. Of course, it's a lot of mass there to grab, but also it's in striking distance with all sorts of things like TAC missile launchers, and you can put manufacturing plants together in there, get some shield gens up, and that becomes a very annoying little base for your opponent once you get dug in. So both these guys playing in a very consistent meta way. If that even makes any sense, I'm sure it doesn't, but you know what I'm saying, which is the important thing. Interceptors taking off one at a time for Congreve and immediately getting blapped out of the sky by Voodoo's inties, which are waiting for them. He's going to have a small window of opportunity here to do that, while Congreve spams together as many traces as he can, and that window is now passed. Voodoo bugs out, saves the rest of those planes as well he ought to. Meanwhile, coming down the river for Voodoo, quite a few Auroras, coupled with a couple of spirits in there, or maybe just the one, giving him... No, there are a couple in there, giving him a little bit of intel on what's going on around him. And he does have the ability to strike. This would be a nice line to take through here. He can threaten a radar. It's good intel that he could deny. He's got a couple of mexes he could put pressure on. He's got the hydro down here. Question is, will he follow that line? He's heading predominantly south at the moment. Congreve well aware of those units. We'll take a look at what he can see. Not a great deal at the moment. He's having some, or had some power issues. And there they suddenly go once he sorts his power problems out. You can see those blips, and so he's just keeping these Mantis on hand, ready to deal with those Auroras once they make landfall. Conversely, Voodoo doesn't have the best idea of what's going on. He has got some spirits on board, of course, in these clumps. He should be about to find out what's waiting for him any minute now. You can see the blips just appearing there on the scope. Immediately going straight after mexes, but Mantis in close quarters obviously much more effective than the tinfoil Auroras. That's good coverage from Congreve, not allowing Voodoo to push forward there, but he's got a couple of Auroras up here. Voodoo doesn't want to get too close to that autogun, but he's also got his ACU across the river, and he's going to go and threaten this core set of mexes and, of course, Congreve's ACU. It's not a bad idea if you can keep pressure on and prevent Congreve from digging in here. Provides 2 functions. Uses up Congreve's attention and APM, while at the same time making sure his own little fire base or potential fire base that he'll be setting up here goes unmolested for longer. A nice little push down here by Voodoo. All 4 mexes bite the dust there for Congreve, and Voodoo with a modest mass advantage at the moment. It's not significant really, 50 to 52. It's fluctuating a little bit, to be fair, 47 to 62 now, but there isn't a great deal in it. We'll take a very quick look at how these guys are doing on reclaim. Lots of power brought in terms of reclaim for Voodoo. 13,000, that'll be all the trees, but only 1,700 mass, and only 800 mass there for Congreve. But Congreve going straight for T2 land. Wagner's now on the field. Not a bad idea, and not unexpected either. Wagner pushes its way in amongst those 4 mexes, picking off Auroras as it goes. Now these 4 mexes are under pressure. Voodoo withdraws his ACU from the river. Gonna need it to finish off this Wagner. He has also got some T2 tech of his own. We've got some blazes moving in now. Sticking with the hover strat for the moment. Early on in this game, much more use than Obsidians, so he can dart across the river, but he is going to lose all 4 of those mexes, so Congreve keeping it close here. These are the same 2 Auroras we've seen from earlier. I don't think so, only 1 kill between these 2. I think it's that mex right there. Voodoo amassing down here at the bottom right, has an eruptor in play. He's got all 4 of the mexes, got a radar system, and quite a few Auroras. Needs to be careful with the build capacity there as well. Doesn't want them creeping around the edge and getting exposed to extra hazards. Chariot airlifting a T2 engineer up front straight to Voodoo's ACU and immediately starts construction of a TAC missile launcher. And he seems to be going for TAC missiles before Congreve. It's, like I said before, a very popular map to go for TAC missiles on, especially in this little nook here. You seem to see it at this level at least 50-60% of the time. If Voodoo can get these operational here, he'll have a big advantage over Congreve. Start sniping mass. Get in there before there's any TMD set up in here. He might even be able to make a play for Congreve's comm. A nice little push mounting up here for Voodoo. Could do with some fervors, bringing them around the top. Help him range these auto guns. He's probably going to realize that's far too well defended at the moment for him to be able to blitz straight in. He's going to have to try and use some of this range advantage that the Auroras have got. It's all well and good against Mantis, but not so easy against the auto guns. A couple of units of build capacity under pressure down there. There they go. Auto gun's going to mop that up nicely, however. 77 to 67, mass deficit of 10 in favor of Voodoo. And that TAC missile launcher online and now launching missiles, another one in the clip ready to go. Has it been scouted? I'm not seeing any TMD in the main base for Congreve. Second TAC missile away. Is he going for the power grid? Yes, he is. Denies that early T2 P-gen. And Congreve doing a nice job on the scouting there. Yes, he loses a less than partially completed power generator, but he manages to switch up and change to zappers. Has one online already, and that's enough to cover him. Second one on the way. And Voodoo managing to sandwich a small group of Congreve's units there. The question is, does he know they're there? Yes, he does. Pretty good intel coverage of that portion of the map for Voodoo. And a lot of interceptors on the field for both of these guys. And it looks like they're going to tangle over on Congreve's side of the map. There are a few tracers down here, which will make life a little bit more difficult for Voodoo. But I think Voodoo's got supremacy in numbers here. Indeed he has. Manages to forge a victory out of that, despite taking ground-based anti-air fire as well. And at the same time, he's also going to make a push down here in the south. A whole bunch of Auroras, and he needs to focus on this auto gun that just got a rank up in veterancy and replenished a bunch of its HP. That's a sign of a Voodoo's attention being elsewhere on the map. He could have completed the conquest there quite nicely if he'd have primaried that auto gun. Definitely could have finished off those other mexes. But a hardy group of rhinos pushing their way out of Congreve's main base tidies up that second force Voodoo had down here at the bottom. And we've got an advancement to T2 air for Voodoo. You can see a bunch of Swiftwinds on the field. Once again, extending his lead in the air. Voodoo trying to make a little bit of an entry over through this aperture here from the river, but that's a lot of Cerberus turrets on the ground, 3 in place, and we do have a TAC missile launcher there for Congreve as well. And TAC missile's already en route, manages to strike it lucky on a T2 power gen there. You can see volcanoes under construction from Voodoo, also paying pretty good attention here. And an upgrade to T3 land, so we're probably going to see Harbingers on the field soon. We haven't seen a great amount of T2 on the ground for Voodoo. There's a pretty hardy chunk down here of Blazes. It's going to face off against a little band, mostly T1 there for Congreve. What's Congreve's intel like on this side of the map? Not great, so he's probably unaware that he's about to walk into that. More TAC missiles away, this time going for the mexes upon Voodoo's extremities. There's a lot of vulnerable mexes out here, of course, which that TAC missile launcher could do a lot of damage to, but instead Congreve decided to detonate it and recycle the mass. I think that might be a little bit of a mistake. It's usually a good idea in general terms to do just that, but it's quite a large map. You can still do a lot of damage even when your opponent has realized that you've got it. But Congreve making a little bit of a push here, and Blaze is just not getting the job done against those rhinos, which really do tear them apart. And that's a nasty little loss there for Voodoo, but Voodoo coming in with a couple of mercies, using up their already very limited fuel. And they're going to start plummeting out of the sky. Does manage to fire him off eventually, but in the midst of that little attack, he has lost all 4 mexes. So yeah, going back to what I was saying earlier, it's usually a good idea once you've made the initial TAC missile strikes to destroy your TAC missile launcher and reclaim it. There's so much mass and energy available in that. It's being used up, often to no avail. Once your opponent realizes what you've been doing and starts building TMD accordingly. But on a map of this size, there's so many mexes you could take out with it. I think that's a little bit of a mistake personally. You can see Voodoo has still held on to his. He's got 6 TAC missiles in that clip, and he should probably think about using them, considering he's just lost massive air dominance on this side of the field and could be facing gunships at any point. But certainly Congreve is about to be facing some gunships. We've got a bunch of Spectres up here, the northwestern edge of the map, going straight in on this little forward base here for Congreve, primarying the tracers first of all and then going after the PD. Congreve a little slow to react with the main body of his interceptors, but does eventually move them in. Of course, those auto guns have been destroyed now, so this little firebase just that much more vulnerable to attack from the ground, and as such Voodoo moves in with a bunch of Auroras to do just that. I think he's going to lose all of the Spectres though in the meantime. And where Congreve has amassed this gigantic air force from, but it's definitely going to be giving Voodoo pause for thought. More TAC missiles inbound meanwhile for Voodoo, going after those exposed mexes. Haven't seen any more TAC missile launches going up. You know, there is another one there. Perhaps I was hasty in that fact. Perhaps that was destroyed by Voodoo and not detonated. I didn't see it go up after all, so I may have been making a false assumption there. Voodoo still alive and kicking, and that's not good news up here for Congreve. Just completes an upgrade to a T2 Mex there, but it's not allowed to hold on to it for very long. Horde of Auroras and Blazes take it to pieces almost instantly. And there go the last of the factories up here. Nice breakthrough there from Voodoo. Congreve now facing T3 on the field down here as well. 1, 2, 3 Harbingers in this immediate vicinity. You can see him pulling back now to consolidate. He's probably going to want to be a little bit careful with all of this build capacity as well, and indeed he is going to shuffle that back. That's a pretty good decision in my mind. And now we've got TAC missiles coming across between the two fire bases, and I haven't seen a lot of commitment to this mini base for Voodoo. He sort of built the TAC missile launcher. He did have his ACU kicking around in here. He's now withdrawn it to the main base, whereas Congreve looks pretty much here to stay. He's got some shielding in place, still got his ACU up there, and still launching TAC missiles from that very nice forward position that it gives you, getting a little base together in here. And now, of course, Voodoo lost his TAC missile launcher down here. He won't be able to take advantage of that position anymore, but he does have a decent little group penetrating through Congreve's northern reaches here. Congreve trying to shadow this group of units, and actually I think he's going to do nicely to tidy this up here. He's got a bunch of rhinos on the field. There's the odd T2 unit in there, the odd blaze, but that's just not enough to contend with what Congreve's got on the field, I don't think. However, he's going to be very concerned about the Harbingers on the field. He does have access to T3 himself now. Thankfully, he's got a brick lying in wait for them down here. See that brick, just enough firepower and armor to tip the balance and force Voodoo to back up on that one. Voodoo looking to make some gains back in the air game with a whole bunch of swift winds going after Congreve's T1. That would have been a nice opportunity to sweep in behind the main pack, but of course he's going to be worried about these bangers. Doesn't want to hover over the top any longer than is absolutely necessary. Bunch of build capacity getting incinerated there, like a failed drop from Congreve trying to re-establish some kind of perimeter defense up there, but all seems to be pretty much lost on this corner, at least for the moment for Congreve. He's had some success down here though, of course, pushing Voodoo back. And now we're going to see the power of the swift winds versus interceptors as they tidy up the last of Congreve's air forces on the map, at least for the moment. But look at that, 94 mass apiece, at least it was just for a moment. So not much in it between these two. Congreve behind, arguably because of the power loss, the power game, not producing quite as much. Voodoo obviously making larger strides, at least in the moment, in the air, so he needs that extra power. But a little bit of extra power is never really a conclusive advantage in Supreme Commander. The key resource is and always has been mass. It's a nasty little base that Congreve has got going up here. And now he's got a T3 factory there as well, starting to spew out those bricks. It's going to make it all the more difficult for Voodoo to break through. More airdrops for bricks coming in, and he just manages to get that one on the ground. Look at that, good ferry work there from Congreve. Lots of bricks. Far too much firepower for Voodoo to contend with, and once again, last couple of Harbingers are forced to back out of that corner. And Voodoo really needs to get a strong advantage, I think, in the air on this one. Start making use of that natural advantage that Aeon have got, because going up against vast quantities of bricks with your Harbingers is always difficult. Still operating off pretty much the one air factory, that one T2. What have we got down here in terms of air power for Congreve? Congreve still sitting on T1. Feels like he doesn't need to be teching that up at the moment. Just rely on brute ground force and T1 interceptors, at least for now. Rhinos forcing back a handful of Auroras, getting a little bit cocky there, looking for some kind of entry. Single solitary Rhino dispatched. I go back and pick off those last couple of Auroras, making a nuisance of themselves. Voodoo finding it really, really difficult at the moment to deal with these bricks. Just small little squads of them in all different areas of the map, and almost every area, it seems at the moment, Voodoo is getting beaten back. One single solitary brick just waltzing its way through the corner there. And Voodoo for the moment still has a mass advantage, but if this continues, you've got to think that that's going to slip away soon. 111 to 94 at the moment in favor of Voodoo, but map control diminishing all the time. It doesn't look like Voodoo's about to cede control of the northwestern corner. There's a bunch of bricks for Congreve just tear through the last of those mexes. How are we doing on reclaim? 22,000 banked so far for Congreve, 17,000 for Voodoo, so Voodoo is behind so far on the reclaim front. It's not really surprising. Combat generally trending over the course of this game to Congreve's territory, so it's been a little bit easier for him to get his hands on that mass. But now bricks emerging off the shoreline of that river, going straight after Voodoo's power grid. Voodoo doesn't want to lose these P-gens. He's going to lose the T3, and the T2 immediately goes up due to the explosion. Chain reaction going off takes out the third one, so a huge loss in terms of power there for Voodoo. And look at that, minus 1,400 net coming in, and that's going to be really hurting Voodoo, who also has more incoming from the south this time. Wheels left with his, or right, sorry, with his Harbingers to try and deal with them. We do finally have T3 air on the field, and the first restorers starting to be deployed. He's going to need more than that to fight his way back out. Look at the map. It's almost completely red now. Voodoo sitting on a paltry 20% of the map from arguably 55-60% not so long ago. More TAC missiles inbound from Congreve's firebase there west of the river, going after, I think, some landed restorers. Luckily Voodoo, paying attention, whisks them away. Another group of bricks approaching from the west. Voodoo needs to be aware of. How's his intel? Absolutely minimal. He's looking pretty good in the air though. Decent bunch of swift winds. Now a handful of restorers to go with them. That's going to be quite hard for Congreve to take down on just T1 air power. And just one T1 air power at that. There is a nasty group of interceptors waiting for their moment to attack. And you can see Congreve's mass income falling off dramatically there as he stalls on power. I wonder what he was building or upgrading there. Certainly wasn't his air power, unless that's at some other position on the map. Large quantity of build capacity there for Congreve. Happy to sit and watch Voodoo re-expand with some mexes. Congreve just looking for an entry point now. He really has got Voodoo hemmed in on the ground. He's got to be concerned about this merry band of restorers, of course. And he has upgraded to T2 and going straight for T3 as well. So his response to this is to allow them just to get on with it. He's not going to waste any of his interceptors at the moment going after this group. He knows they'll get slaughtered at the moment if he tries to go for it. He's trying to stockpile enough planes, maybe even get some ASFs in there so he can attack all at once and grab the initiative on the air, and then surely he must think he'll have closed out this game. Voodoo trying to change tack conversely by moving into the experimental side of things. And he's still doing pretty well on eco. 136 plays 96, and that has to be RAS that Voodoo's running on the commander. It's the only way. Advanced RAS, there we go. It's the only way he's able to stay in this. Just shows you, average Joes and newbies out there, how essential commander upgrades are in this game. Voodoo down to just 20% map control, but ahead in eco due to some very nicely timed upgrades on his comm. And finally we're getting the air engagement that's been brewing for the last 5 or 10 minutes. Congreve losing a lot of interceptors in the process, but he won't mind about that, just so long as he can take down the last of these restorers. And those last restorers and what harbingers Voodoo's got work frantically to deal with this small brick invasion that's going straight for the back of Voodoo's base. Voodoo pulls his comm out of that area. Wise decision. Suppose though might possibly require the overcharge. And another little push from the south this time. Not committing quite so hard. He's got a whole bunch of harbingers to worry about. Just to finish those off first. But as that Colossus goes into the green, it's going to be a real close push now from Congreve, can cause enough damage to this base to stop Voodoo from getting that Colossus online. We have another push from the south, mainly Medusas. If he can get it in here and slaughter all this build capacity working on this GC, he might be able to stop it from going online. 36 minutes gone in this one so far. Those bricks still alive at the back and now threatening a rear resourcing option from Voodoo. Yes, he's got advanced RAS, but he certainly won't want to lose 3 T3 mexes. Restorers, just a handful of them left, but the GC goes online. If only Congreve had pushed in a little bit earlier. Voodoo trying to primary those bricks at the back. They move north, trying to get away from it. They've got a little bit of time thanks to the requirement, the GC, to negotiate this cliff here. But look at it, just look at it, red everywhere. Surely Voodoo can't hold on for that much longer. Bricks on the move in the middle. I'll brush aside these couple of T1 mexes that Voodoo had left out there. Question is, what can Voodoo do with the GC? Congreve wisely evacing his comm. This is probably the first place that's going to be hit. He doesn't want to be standing anywhere near it when that GC emerges from the river. But of course, strong air initiative now with Congreve. Yes, we have 3 or so ASFs up there, but we have at least 10 or 12 down here for Congreve, and as such we're starting to see a whole bunch of Corsairs being spat out of this base down here now. Presumably that's going to be what Congreve decides to use to counter this GC. He's going to need an awful lot of them though. GC's 100,000 HP or near enough. That's a lot of Corsairs. A lot of Corsair damage that it's going to take. Voodoo trying to re-establish some kind of base up here, throwing together T2 radar. It's going to really want to get that T3 P-Gen online, I'd imagine. He's not doing too badly, actually. That advanced RAS kicks out so much power. And that GC emerges west of the river. Pops the 2 shield gens first of all, and then just starts blapping everything. And Congreve Control Ks all of the structures, not wanting to offer that GC any free veterancy at all. Corsairs go to work, earning their pay, trying to take as many hit points off that experimental as they can. What few ASFs Voodoo has deployed onto those Corsairs, but far too many Geminis circling there for Congreve. And Voodoo actually able to push out here south of his main base. Overwhelming amounts of Harbingers. It does just seem like Congreve's eased off slightly on the brick production elsewhere, but that's another large attack that Voodoo needs to be concerned with. Building lots of PD in his base. But it's extraordinary game, this one so far. 2 tiny little pockets left on the map for Voodoo. And of course this one experimental is now being dogged heavily by aircraft of all types. We've got cormorants circling overhead, torpedo bombers taking advantage while they can, while it was in the water, and now it emerges onto the land. It'll be the Corsairs' turn to take over. Hydrocarbon bites the dust, not a crucial unit at this stage in the game. More control K going on there for Congreve. Definitely not wanting to offer any free veterancy to that experimental. What has Voodoo got brewing, if anything? Quite surprised not getting a more of a push here from Congreve. Yes, that's a lot of harbs, but that's also a lot of bricks. He feels like he wants to range this base a little bit now that he's got some artillery in place. Trebuchet there. The GC making its slow, methodical way around the cliff edge here, taking barrage after barrage from the circling Corsairs. Fires its main weapon as it approaches the base. Surely wants to take out the power grid. That has to be target number 1. Goes down into the red, just 22,000 hit points and falling. Gets a nice rank up in veterancy, takes it back up to 30. But some very vulnerable looking T3 power gens there. Doesn't seem like Voodoo is controlling this one. Looks like a point and click. Doesn't want to be standing near that when it goes off though. Explosion making life all the more difficult. At the moment he's not getting anything done with it. Finish off those power gens. Gets one of them. Gets 2 of them. Is he going to get the T2 P-Gens as well? Doesn't look like it. That one there survives with just 160 hit points. So Corsairs doing their job nicely. Congreve taking quite the damage though. Some strange issues, some bugs caused at the moment with the eco. You can see bugged out here in the score box and bugged out on the reclaim. If Zep's watching this, perhaps you'd like to take a look at that, buddy, or let us know what's going on with that one. Incidentally, guys, I think he still needs more replays in the desync thread, so if you haven't offered up any for that, and you have a replay that desyncs, please do. but please read the rules, instructions in the first post. He wants you to look at the logs as well and post them so he knows in what beat the desync occurs. Doesn't mean a great deal to me, but I'm sure a lot of you techies will understand it better. But the second GC, 52% done and climbing. And Congreve could have an opening here. Voodoo's moved the majority of his Harbingers around the back to get away from the trebuchets. If Congreve was to push forward with these bricks, he may well lose them, but if he can take out all of this build capacity, he might be in good shape. There are, of course, a bunch of Oblivions down here, but he's definitely not going to want to face a second Colossus, at least not at the moment. That horde of Corsairs landed over here in the west. That's a real shame it's bugged out. I'd love to see how these guys are doing mass-wise. We sort of can if we do it the old-fashioned way. Congreve looks to be down to around 55 mass per tick. Voodoo way up there on 130. Advanced RAS paying for itself and then some. Harbingers getting nasty punishment though from these bricks. Just a couple of them left. And then there was one, and now there's T3 Air Factory at the back, looking very vulnerable indeed. But that Colossus, that second Colossus, almost completed. Trebuchet fire still landing in that base. Another group of Harbs finally take it out of commission. Where is Voodoo going to take that GC? He's got to be more concerned with this than he has about attacking. He has to tidy this up first, surely. Loses that last T3 mechs. Just 40 mass per tick income, and then jumping to 99s all over the place. At the moment, very difficult indeed to see where these guys are. That was probably more likely to be Reclaim, but the Reclaim fixing itself. It's okay for Voodoo, it just seems to be Congreve's eco that's bugged out in the display. But we can see at least that Voodoo has banked 60k mass from Reclaim. GC on the move, chasing down those bricks. No trouble there, of course. Movement speed of 2.5 for the Galactic Colossus, and a movement speed of just 2 for the brick. No chance of escape there, my friend. But look at what Voodoo's got left. He's got a GC, he's got a few Harbs, but that's it. But a third, sorry, I was about to say second, a third GC under construction, coming up to 20% complete. And Congreve just doesn't seem to be offering up any new ideas, really. We've got an upgrade going on his comm in the water. We still have a GC wreck from earlier, which he hasn't finished harvesting. He's got one engineer on it at the moment. Seems to be around coming up to a quarter or 33% complete on that. Another upgrade, this time on Voodoo's comm. .46 going on 47 minutes gone in this one so far. And it's a real testament to Voodoo, the gamer, the player, that he's managed to hold out this long. I gotta say, I'm a little bit concerned for Congreve right now. He struggled a great deal to deal with that first GC. Admittedly, he's got a hell of a lot of Corsairs on the map now, plus a few Cormorants as well. 47 fighter bombers in place for him there. GC emerges on land, wipes out a whole family of engineers. Mighty atrocity it is, but a wave of Corsair fire incoming. But he's got to be real careful here. Voodoo, hit to his style of play right now, has brought in a whole bunch of shadowing ascendants. He's got to keep them as close as he can to the GC without letting them come under any potential ground-based fire. You can see Congreve trying to get a brick in around the back there. This is going to come down to who's got the better positioning and the better micro. Temporarily safe, of course, from fighter bomber fire. Could be facing some cormorants. They're lining up there. They don't want to get anywhere near the flak, of course. And the angle of attack is vital here for Congreve. He can come in at the side. He can come straight over. That's fine. But he doesn't want to come in from the front and risk running over the top of all of those ascendants. And look at that. Just eviscerating 50% of that Colossus's HP in one pass. Coming in for another one. This is going to be a lot tougher though. The Ascendants are much closer, and a nice little bit of micro there from Voodoo saves the GC a little bit that time. A couple of Corsairs getting clipped by the flak fire. Loyalists coming in to try and thin out the flak as best they can, but look at that. GC down to just 3,200 hit points. This is fantastic work from Congreve. He's going to finish off the GC, but my goodness, it's cost him on that final run, losing well over half of the Corsairs. What's he got left out of that pack? Just 15 of the 47 going on 50 we had earlier. In comes some ASFs from Voodoo. So he's re-established his T3 air production. That's a nice little defensive core base Voodoo's managed to get going on. Another GC under construction. Does that mean the other one's on the way? Yes, it is. Poor old Congreve just can't get a break. It's GC after GC. And now his stock of Corsairs is heavily depleted. So he's going to find it that much harder to deal with. He immediately gets his engineers out though, his build capacity out to start farming up that GC wreck. What can he do with the mass in the time he's got allotted? That is the question. And that is going to be what decides this map. But Congreve throwing together a cheeky little Monkey Lord build as we pass the 51.5 minute mark. And that gets 3/4 done. If you can get it in around the edge, he might be able to get something done. But Congreve's first concern and priority is going to be this, what is it, third GC incoming, and that goes straight after all the build capacity, denying any more reclaim on that wreck. Voodoo wheels north to take care of the bricks and loyalists that are beelining straight for the second group of ascendants that are trying to cover that Colossus. This is phenomenal play from both these guys. Corsairs come in for another pass, but this time they take massive casualties. Congreve losing almost all of his fighter bombers in that pass, with well over 3/4 left on that HP on that GC. And all of this build capacity now under pressure. This could be free veterancy time. He's trying to throw together as many units of point defense as he can. And that GC just blaps engineer after engineer. Looking incredibly healthy, and I think that means this base is going down. There's nothing that Congreve can do to save it. Monkey Lord on the move, however, but the fourth GC coming up to 70-75% complete. If Voodoo can get that online before the Monkey Lord and the bricks get there, I think he will have pulled off a stunning comeback. Ion reactor goes critical, taking a bunch of build capacity, surrounding it with it. And that base is left in tatters. GC 77% done and climbing. There are a lot of harbingers there though, so I don't blame Congreve for being cautious, but really the time for caution is over. You are well behind now. Your base is officially defunct. You've got to just go in and hope and pray. 88% complete on that Colossus. Scout planes continually passing overhead, so he's probably well aware of that Colossus and its progress, which is why he's been so cagey with that Monkey Lord. 92% complete and climbing. This really does just illustrate the power of the RAS and the advanced RAS. What Voodoo's managed to do with effectively no map control whatsoever for the last half an hour of this game, maybe more. It's quite astonishing, really. The last few units Congreve's got offensively moving around the back of Voodoo's base, going straight after the mexes. It's not really going to sting Voodoo too badly. 4 T1 mexes at this point. Causing no real trouble as the GC mops up the last few structures in Congreve's base. Now GC goes online. There is now absolutely no hope for that Monkey Lord unless the GC moves out. Does Voodoo actually know it's there? He may not have seen it. If Congreve waits and allows that GC to move out, he may get away with it. But Voodoo being pretty careful at this point. Doesn't look like he's taking it anywhere for the moment. He must know it's there, surely. Maybe he saw it a little bit earlier. He certainly doesn't need to expose himself to any extra danger. Might as well keep it there for ACU and base defense. At this point, there's not a great deal Congreve can do. We have got a second Monkey Lord nearly completed. Probably waiting to get the two of them together and just go for a final push. Maybe some kind of sandwich maneuver. GC gonna go right past this Monkey Lord though. And there, Voodoo, if you didn't know already, will now be well aware that the spider bot is sitting right off his coastline. There is really nothing he can do. Congreve's got these little patches of units kicking around the map, but nothing that he can gain any kind of supremacy with. He's lost all of his tech. He's lost his eco. Now he's going to face not only GCs roaming around the map, but also bands of harbingers, which are unsurpassed. And Congreve throws out the GG. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to finish that spider bot. His eco so badly affected. You can see the power issues he's having. He was doing just about okay when he still had that last T2 down in the bottom left hand corner, but when that GC finally took it out, And there we go, have it. Voodoo saying, well, the Ras has saved him. Cannot put a price on it. You really can't. Swiftwind's going after the last few ASFs on the field for Congreve. Spiderbot gets marched down by the Colossus. He's going to finish it off. And there goes the last offensive weapon that Congreve had that was even remotely standing a chance of turning this game around. Such chance that it was. Certainly it wasn't a particularly significant one. Voodoo had played this far too well as we pass the 1 hour mark, and Congreve control cases just tipping us over the edge of epicosity. But what a game, what a amazing passage of play between these two guys. Fantastic work from Voodoo for holding on, spitting out those experimentals. Great work from Congreve for taking down those two Colossuses, but the third proved too much, coupled with those Ascendants. But as I say, as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. As always, more to come from me in the future. In the meantime, stay well and stay safe. This is Gyle, signing out.